What's next for the Seattle Seahawks in building out their roster for 2025? What's going on, good people? Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Hope things are going well. And the business is not yet concluded when it comes to building out the Seattle Seahawks and their team. Yesterday, we settled on an initial 53-man roster, and initial is an important word there. And by the way, you can view that 53-man roster right here on the screen. In the spreadsheet, I updated it to have the new information where it's in line with what the Seahawks released yesterday. So if you prefer to look at it in spreadsheet form, well, here it is. There's the offense, there's the defense, and there's the special teams. So 53 players. We also have some injured reserve players, a couple that were put on yesterday, a couple that have been on for a little longer than that. One thing that I should note real quick is that Steven Sims apparently did get released with the injury designation. We didn't put him on our reserve. We just let him go. So he's not here. But all this stuff is up to date with what we have been told as of yesterday. So this is where we sit right now. Obviously, things are going to shift a lot between now and week 1. And things are going to shift even more as we go through the season. And look for things to get shaken up in the next week and a half before we get to the Niners game, because we know that a lot of intriguing players get released around the NFL. There are going to be a lot of intriguing players from other teams that are maybe stacked at a certain position that get released because there's just no room for them. And if you're a team that maybe has a need at a particular spot for depth, that's a great way to bolster your roster. So look for some guys to kind of be offered up as a sacrificial lamb if we are able to bring in somebody from the outside that we really like. This video is not about that, though. That process, it may play out, at least in part today. This video is going to be about something a little bit easier to discuss, the practice squad, because the practice squad is, by and large, going to be built out of players that were released by the Seahawks, or waived is the right term, that were waived by the Seahawks yesterday or the day before. And the roster stuff is just a little bit harder because you have waiver order. You have a bunch of teams that are going to be in front of you because we had an above average record last year that are going to get first dibs on these players. Like a team like the Titans, their dibs do not reset. They get first dibs every time. So a lot of the really good players that are out there that you might want to go get, like Brennan Jackson. Brennan Jackson's a good example. He got released by, I think it was the Rams. A lot of Seahawks fans want to bring him in. I'd like to bring him in too, but you need him to work his way through waivers down to the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are closer to the bottom of the list than the top of the list. So you need a bunch of teams to say, no, we don't want him. And if you want to add somebody like a Brennan Jackson to your practice squad, then you need every team to pass on him, and then you need him to pick your team as the team he wants to go to for the practice squad, when realistically he'd probably just go back to the team he was on. He'd probably go back to LA because that was the team he was on initially. Probably has the best feel for things over there. But anyway, that will play out today. I'm not even going to try to guess who we're going to go after. I can make some guesses about who we might let go to make room for a player. Guys like Nick Collerup. It seems like he's on borrowed time. We're holding on to him temporarily until we can find something we're a little more intrigued by. I'd say both current backup guards could be on borrowed time if we come to a deal with a Risner or find a young guy that we think has a little more upside. Connor O'Toole, hard to imagine him having a firm grip on that. Excuse me. Ooh. Connor O'Toole, don't think he has a firm grip on that spot. And those are probably the guys that you're looking at. But this video is more about the practice squad. Let's talk about, as of right now, who's going to make the practice squad? Who makes the most sense for this squad? So my best guess is, as of right now, and I have 17 practice squatters. I'll talk about why later. But before we actually get to it, by the way, the practice squad stuff should be built out very soon here. Maybe later today, maybe tomorrow. But there's a process where a player has to clear waivers before they get put on a practice squad, and I believe that takes 24 hours. So once we get to 1 p.m. today, there should be a lot of movement with practice squads across the NFL. Anyway, I have 2 practice squad running backs. The first one is Damien Martinez. Personally, this is a little bit of wishful thinking on my part. I'm not convinced we're going to be able to get him. I think there are teams out there that are going to want a 3rd or 4th running back. We're only carrying 3 because of the fullback thing, I think. And I think Damien Martinez is going to have some appeal. I know that a lot of Seahawks fans are kind of down on him. I think there's going to be a market for him to get him on a 53-man. But I'm hoping we can keep him around because I still like him a lot. And I also went with Jacardia Wright. What might happen is that Martinez gets picked up by a team like Houston, and then Jacardia Wright becomes our practice squad running back. And maybe we bring Tyus back in as another practice squad running back. I don't know. But I'm going to say 2 running backs for now, which is something that we can afford to do because we're not really pressed to carry a bunch of receivers this year, and we also don't need to carry a practice squad quarterback, which is a nice advantage. I do have 2 wide receiver practice squatters. The first one is, I think, pretty much a slam dunk, Ricky White III. Really like what he can bring on special teams, like what he can do in some capacity on offense. I think there's something here with Ricky White that's pretty good. I think he'll clear waivers, so I think we get him back. And then I'm going with Broden, mostly just because Milroe seems to like him a lot. I don't see a ton with Broden. He's very much a long shot to actually be a relevant NFL player, but again, Milroe likes him, and you may as well let Milroe keep his favorite receiver for the year. And I don't think anybody's going to pick him up, so that should be easy. Okay, bumping down to the offensive line now. This is an area of the practice squad that I think will get shaken up a little bit, because I think what will happen is that we're going to sign somebody at the guard spot, maybe Risner, maybe some rookie that gets cut from another team that we like a little more, and either probably Cable Do, but maybe Richmond will get bumped back to the practice squad. But for the moment, I'm going to go with Anthony Kite. I thought he had an okay preseason. I thought he showed a little something. I think there's a little bit of reason to believe he's at least practice squad worthy. Center, I have Federico Maranguez. And for anyone who's wondering, this is our free one, supposedly. Because of the Europe to NFL pipeline setup they have in the NFL right now, if you are a European player trying to make his way to the NFL, they give teams an extra practice squad spot to carry you, to make it a little bit easier for you to make the squad. It basically guarantees that you're going to be on there, unless you're some massive, comically big net negative, which there's no reason to believe Maranguez is. So Maranguez is going to be your practice squad center. Right guard, I do think Lomea latches on here. I know he's regressed, but in the absence of anything better, and I don't know what would be better right now, right? This is one of those situations where, yes, I know some of the practice squad spots will be filled by players from the outside, but I do not have the breadth of knowledge required to know who those players might be. I don't watch every single preseason game. I don't watch every single training camp for every single team in the league. There's probably some right guard out there that we're a little more into than Lomea. I have no idea who that is, and I have no way of guessing. Again, what you might see is we sign Risner, that knocks Cable Do to the practice squad, and maybe that knocks Lomea off entirely. That's also a possibility. And finally, on offense, we have Luke Felix Fualalo, which I'm a little bit iffy on. I'm not crazy about this one personally, but I had an open spot left. Again, it's really hard to figure out who might come in from the outside. Again, going back to the Brennan Jackson example. Yes, Brennan Jackson would be amazing to get on the practice squad, but he has to clear waivers for all 32 teams, and then you actually have to be the team that gets him on your practice squad when he has his choice. And again, he'll probably just go back to the Rams. If they want him on their practice squad at all, why would he go anywhere else? So I can't really speculate into that kind of stuff, but Luke Felix Fualalo had a reasonably passable preseason, I think. All right. Defense now, nose tackle. I think this one, unless he's injured in some way that is much more severe than we know, Brandon Peely is going to make it. Don't know how he doesn't. Clearly a very good good practice squad guy to have, and maybe at this point somebody that's going to be active for week 1 off the practice squad. And I'm also going to go with J.R. Singleton because of some of the decisions made today. I think there's room for him. You can list him as the defensive tackle here, and you kind of have a little bit more to play with at the nose tackle position if you need help in those first couple weeks. So Singleton, really good final preseason game. He makes the cut. Edge, I've got Tyreek Smith, who got hurt a couple times in that Green Bay game, but overall had a pretty good preseason. And I don't think that some of these edge guys currently on the team are going to last. Like Connor O'Toole, I'm really confused about that one. That one I'm scratching my head on, but I think he won't be here at the end of the day. And a guy like Smith will be good to have around behind him. And then Jamie Sheriff. Jamie Sheriff's great to have around because he can play outside and inside, and we really need inside help right now. But the fact that he can also play outside is great. Linebacker, this one's kind of important for the moment because we're so thin at linebacker. I've got Josh Ross, and I've got Pat O'Connell. Maybe we'll try to do a little bit better, but honestly, the way Pat O'Connell played in that last game, I don't know. I'm not so sure anymore. Like, I was pretty down on Pat O'Connell after the first couple of games, but he showed me something in that last game, and it kind of made me feel like for a practice squad, you can't do that much better. Cornerback, we're going to go with Isis Waxter. It's already been said that we're going to try to get him back on the practice squad. Intriguing young player. Definitely want to keep him around. You've got Demarion Williams. If you can get him back on the practice squad, I think that's a slam dunk. And if you can get him back, Jarek Reed would be great because of his special teams value. So that's a starting point for the practice squad. We'll know more as we see what players the Seahawks are interested in as this day goes on. See you guys later. Go Hawks.